All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, former Jets quarterback Christian Hackenberg shared some of his experiences with the New York Jets recently on the Ross Tucker podcast. And by the way, this is not the first time Christian Hackenberg has talked about, his time with the Jets or his time in the NFL. Or Penn State. He actually does a lot of work for Penn State YouTube, and I highly recommend checking it out. I always love listening to his insight. But basically, in the little audio clip that was shared this go round with Tucker, and he pretty much alluded to the fact that both parties, right, himself and the Jets, they both had shortcomings in it ultimately not working out. From Hackenberg's perspective, he said that New York was probably the last place he should have gone. He also touched on the expectations as well, right, coming into a big market team. And if we think back to his draft position, it was obviously really high, that high mid-second round pick. I think it was 51, 52, 53, somewhere in that range. But the point is, Hackenberg was not a finished product, right? And really, to be fair, no rookie quarterback is ever a finished product, but there's some guys that need more time than others, right? Justin Herbert comes in and starts dominating immediately. Pat Mahomes had to sit a year on the bench. So every rookie quarterback is a little bit different, but I think it's safe to say at least a little time on the bench would probably all do rookie quarterbacks some good. But some of the shortcomings from the Jets side of it, from his perspective, number one, they didn't have a plan for him. They just kind of drafted him, and that was pretty much that. He also touched on the fact that the Jets had four quarterbacks. They carried four quarterbacks his rookie year, which in his eyes kind of limited his development just because of the reps, in camp. And with four quarterbacks, on a team, you just have less opportunities. And I remember when the Jets drafted him, and this was a big talking point. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, it is pretty interesting. It just kind of felt like disconnected. And Hack has already talked a little bit about this before. I think it was on the Adam Brenneman show or podcast, where he talked about how his draft selection was like a Jets front office pick. And so there were some people within the organization that really loved Hackett, and they wanted the Jets to build around him and really put him, give him a plan to have him follow to develop. But then there were some that were completely out. And thinking back on it, man, like I remember Hackenberg coming out of Virginia, right? He was this top end 5-star quarterback, elite traits. He commits to Penn State even after, what transpired there. Bill O'Brien was the head coach, and Hackenberg steps in, wins the job as a true freshman, and is putting up some solid numbers and really doing a great job. I mean, people were talking about him being literally the next number one overall pick when it was time for him to, enter the NFL draft. I mean, he's in there running the same style of offense that the New England Patriots, that Bill O'Brien ran with the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. That was one of the biggest draws of Hackenberg to sticking with Penn State. He gets to play in this true NFL pro style system, and he was looking really good. Bill O'Brien ends up leaving to Houston. James Franklin comes in as head coach, and then from that point on, they completely overhauled the offensive system. It was like this spread, so there was tons of shotgun looks. There was holes in the offensive line. He was getting beat up, I want to say weekly. But I remember when the Jets drafted him, I thought it was an intriguing prospect because, here you have an ultra-talented, right? When we just look at raw tools, we have a talented QB, big arm, big-bodied, guy who is a player who at points in college really flashed. You just kind of felt like with time on the bench, with a better offensive line, with maybe a season or two with no pressure on him, he could really kind of just get back to how he looked his freshman year, where he was playing confident football and not being just lit up every single week. And like his mechanics deteriorated over time at Penn State. Again, just sacked a lot. His eyes would drop down from coverage. And look, as we all know, it didn't work out with the Jets. It didn't work out with other teams. But, I just trying to put myself back, at that point in time without any sort of hindsight. I remember I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe the New York Jets are thinking of a long-term plan here. Kind of like the Jordan Love situation. Obviously, we didn't have a guy like Aaron Rodgers at the helm. But like I was thinking, okay, Hackenberg, a couple years from now, He gets it, kind of almost how Jordan Travis is being treated right now by the New York Jets. But here's the kicker, right? Here's the part that kind of throws a wrench in everything. Jordan Travis was a 5th round pick. Hackenberg was a high to mid 2nd round pick. So I think Hack is spot on where he's talking about expectations, because I remember there was a lot of buzz, like Hackenberg's first practice with the New York Jets. How does he look? His first preseason game, this and that. He's the next savior and all these different things. But it just kind of felt disconnected. Whether it was the coaching staff, whether it was the amount of quarterbacks, whether it was, Hack just needing help and needing time to develop and just not looking good at all. Maybe just being a little shell-shocked and media size. In the end, it just sucked that it didn't work out. I was pulling for him. I'm still pulling for him. But, I think it's really, really cool, really commendable that Hack can, hop on these different podcasts and, talk about his time there. Without necessarily like bad mouthing anybody, any specific coach or anything like that. And he, can identify that there were faults on both sides. So anyway, figured I'd just give my 2 cents on it. I thought it was a pretty cool, interesting clip. I'll leave it listed down below in the description box, along with his podcast with Brenneman. So anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.